When ministers fail to update the House and answer questions from MPs, which part of the ministerial code is being upheld?
Well, it's not just the ministerial code, it's the...
What you're about to see is Alberto Costa methodically holding Kama to account on the floor of Parliament. Step by step, he lays out the facts, cites the codes, and presses on questions that remain unanswered, from questionable data to the standards expected of ministers. There is no spin here, and no room for evasion. This is accountability in its clearest form. Let's go to the clip.
Speaker's response to that point of order. Can you tell this committee why your ministers are failing to follow the Nolan principle of accountability, which requires that they submit themselves to scrutiny for their public decisions?
Well, I do take this seriously and regularly discuss it with the Speaker, and he raises his concerns with me, and we usually try to address the concerns that he's flagged with us. And I'm always happy to do so. That's an ongoing discussion, so that there is the scrutiny that is needed of the statements that have to be made.
When ministers fail to update the House and answer questions from MPs, which part of the ministerial code is being upheld?
Well, it's not just the ministerial code, it's the role of Parliament, which almost sits above the ministerial code. Mr. Speaker feels this very strongly, that we are accountable to Parliament. Do you feel
this very strongly?
Yes, I do, and that's why I regularly discuss it with the Speaker and look at... He will usually flag with me where he's got concerns, as I would expect him to, and then we go through those and try to make sure they're not...
Were you aware of this point of order raised last week?
I was, yes.
Thank you. I will now refer to a further contemporary example. I understand that this coming Thursday, the last day before the forthcoming parliamentary recess, your government, Prime Minister, intends to publish a progress report on the Grenfell inquiry by way of a written ministerial statement. Given Mr. Speaker's comments and your confirmation that you're aware of that point of order, as head of government, why are you permitting this lack of upholding standards, given the important progress report in the Grenfell inquiry and other statements that I understand will be made on Thursday? What are you going to do about that?
Well, I'll happily have a look at the proposed written ministerial statement on Thursday and discuss it with the Speaker.
Thank you. Now, paragraph 1.6 bracket C of the Ministerial Code, it quotes, "It is of paramount importance that ministers give accurate and truthful information to Parliament, correcting any inadvertent error at the earliest opportunity." Prime Minister, you are of course familiar with that paragraph of your Ministerial Code, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Again, by reference to a recent example and to assist you in showing how you comply with the extract from the Ministerial Code, I would like to turn to last week's Prime Minister's questions, when the Leader of the Opposition asked you, how many extra teachers are there since your government took office? Now, fullfact.org, a neutral website, only a few days ago published that the PM, and I quote, claimed that the number of teachers in England is more than when the Conservatives left office. Fullfact.org added, and I quote, "This is not supported by the latest school workforce census figures, which show a fall, not a rise." Can you tell this committee which Nolan principle underpinned your answer?
Well, what I was putting before the House is the fact that we are committed to recruiting an additional 6,500 new teachers, and we've got record numbers of trainees coming into the system, and therefore that number is going up. The role, if you look at secondary schools, further education colleges, the number of teachers has gone up. That's absolutely clear. That's what our commitment was. In relation to primary schools, the number of pupils has gone down pretty dramatically in terms of the birth rate, and therefore the sheer number of teachers at primary level has gone down because less teachers are needed because the birth rate has gone down. But the focus, just for completeness, in our plan for change and in a manifesto was on 6,500 new teachers for secondary schools, specialist schools and colleges, and that's the number I was referring to.
Thank you very much. Can I now turn to the issue of written parliamentary questions and standards? Now, I know my colleague, the Honourable Member for Lancaster and Wyre, as Chair of the Procedure Committee, has issued calls for evidence in her committee's new inquiry. Now, paragraph 9.8 of your ministerial code states, and I quote, "Ministers should, where possible, provide full and timely responses to written parliamentary questions, ministerial correspondence and select committee reports." Once again, can I ask you to confirm to this committee that you're familiar with that paragraph of the ministerial code?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you explain why your government is failing to provide timely responses to WBQs as obligated under the standards outlined by your own ministerial code?
Well, we do our level best to comply, of course, and I think the Procedure Committee is looking into this, which we welcome, and we'll study carefully the findings and any recommendations that are made.
Thank you. Paragraph 1.6d of the Ministerial Code states, "Ministers," and I quote, "should be as open as possible with Parliament and the public, refusing to provide information only when disclosure would not be in the public interest." Are you satisfied that this is in compliance with the high standards you've set your government, the responses that are currently being made?
Yes, but obviously if the Procedure Committee in due course sets out its findings and any recommendations, I'd want to study them to see whether we can improve in any.
The chamber falls into near silence, the kind that signals a moment of consequence. Parliamentary microphones pick up every word as Alberto Costa begins a precise and deliberate examination of the Prime Minister's statements. This is not theatre, it is scrutiny. Costa opens with a direct challenge, grounded in the Nolan principles and the core expectation of public office, accountability. Why, he asks, are ministers not adhering to that standard? It is not a rhetorical flourish, it is a foundational question, one that goes to the credibility of government itself. Keir Starmer responds carefully, adopting a measured tone. He insists he takes the matter seriously, pointing to ongoing discussions with parliamentary authorities and acknowledging the importance of scrutiny. But the answers remain broad, procedural, and notably short on detail. Costa presses further. He is not seeking reassurances or generalities. He wants specifics, clarity rooted in the ministerial code. Instead, the Prime Minister appears to draw a distinction between Parliament and the Code itself, implying separate spheres of responsibility. It is an interpretation that raises more questions than it resolves. When asked directly about a specific point of order raised the previous week, the response is brief and limited. There is acknowledgement, but no explanation, no expansion. The opportunity to clarify passes unfulfilled. The focus then turns to the Grenfell progress report, a matter of national significance. Costa questions why such an update was delivered through a written ministerial statement on the final day before recess, a move that inevitably limits scrutiny. The Prime Minister offers only that he will look into it, a phrase that signals caution rather than command. At this point, Costa turns to the text itself. He reads directly from paragraph 1.6c of the Ministerial Code. Ministers must give accurate and truthful information to Parliament. The Chamber listens closely. Starmer confirms he is familiar with the provision. Costa then introduces evidence. He cites Full Fact, the independent fact-checking organization, which concluded that the Prime Minister's claim about rising teacher numbers was incorrect. The data shows a decline, not an increase. The response is not a correction or retraction, but a reframing references to pupil numbers, secondary schools, and future recruitment targets. The figures are presented confidently, yet the central contradiction remains unresolved. The examination continues with written parliamentary questions, a core mechanism of transparency. Costa refers to paragraph 9.8 of the Code, which requires full and timely responses. Again, Starmer confirms his familiarity. Asked why compliance appears inconsistent, the Prime Minister offers a general assurance that the government does its best, pointing to committees and processes. Finally, Costa reaches paragraph 1.6d, the obligation for ministers to be as open as possible, withholding information only when strictly necessary. Does the Prime Minister believe this standard is being met? The answer is cautious. Starmer says he will wait for recommendations from the Procedure Committee before reaching a view. It is not a defense, nor a denial, but a deferral. What we have witnessed is not confrontation for its own sake, but a disciplined exercise in parliamentary accountability. One MP methodically referencing the rulebook, another navigating its implications. No raised voices, no theatrics, just the slow pressure of evidence, standards, and unanswered questions. This was not a routine exchange, nor a partisan clash. It was a moment where the language of integrity was tested against practice, and where the burden of proof lay squarely with the leadership. For those who claim British politics lacks drama or consequence, this exchange tells a different story. Accountability, when pursued seriously, needs no spectacle. It requires preparation, precision, and the willingness to insist on clear answers. And in this case, Alberto Costa did exactly that.